and Dr. Lopez.
There you go. Okay.
Mhm. Get my blanket.
Hey, folks,
Hello.
Hello.
how are we?
We are all here except Jerry. So I guess we could probably get started. I'm sure she'll join us. I haven't heard otherwise. Okay, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Seems like we just met, you know?
All right.
So I'm gonna call the meeting to order. If you can just state your name, and I'll go alphabetically. Sal? Sal?
Rosen. Yep. Sal Bramante here.
Carrie?
Carrie Janelle here.
Sophie?
Sophie Hansen here.
Kevin?
Evan Sexton here.
Joan?
Joan Wetzel here.
And Rick Lopez. So in terms of the agenda for tonight, just a quick review. We have introduction of our new administrative assistant. We'll have some public comment if there's anybody to join us. We have a variance request that we're going to vote on at 1051 Main Street. And then we have a series of regulation updates and proposals. One around the human habitation, which we reviewed at our last meeting. We're going to go over it again. We have an RFP for a comprehensive road and management consultant. And then regulation update on dumpsters and the food code. And then our usual monthly report, and we'll wrap it up. So I'll turn it over to Aday for introduction.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Lopez, and good evening, everybody. I would like to introduce our new Health Department Administrative Assistant. Her name is Haley Murphy. Haley comes to us with vast experience from the hospitality industry, which is extremely important when dealing with our residents and people in general. She's currently working on her degree in business administration. Haley's start date was on December 2nd, and she's hit the ground running since then. She's been adjusting very well and learning our software with lightning speed. We're happy Haley is here with us, and please join me in welcoming Haley to our health department.
Welcome.
Very nice.
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
I just have to say, when I saw one message from Haley, I was confused for a second because I thought I was getting a message from two of the select board members, and I was very concerned.
Terry, I made the same assessment when I looked at it real quick. I'm like, why did they just call me?
I was like, what is happening? But no, it was a whole note. We have our own Haley Murphy, so welcome.
Great. All right, in terms of public comment, I see a couple members of the public, Jen and Mary C. I don't know if they're on just to observe or to comment. Jen?
Hi,
Hi. Welcome.
thanks for having me and allowing me to speak again tonight.
Sure.
I'm going to try to be brief. I know you have a long agenda, but there are several points that I really wanted to make tonight. First, I wanted to acknowledge the efforts of this board in addressing the rodent issues across the town. I know that this is a challenging problem, and I do hope that the remediation initiatives are successful. However, I really want to emphasize that my neighbors and I have been raising concerns about a very specific issue for over 5 years. And I have personally been advocating for over a year myself with still no meaningful action. The issue is pretty straightforward. This uncovered dumpster with an ample food waste located next to a brook with an active rodent population. I mean, it's really a textbook example of a public health hazard that requires immediate attention, yet it remains unresolved. And the lack of meaningful enforcement or accountability for this business is becoming increasingly frustrating. I mean, just this morning and right now, that dumpster is left wide open, and it was all night long. So it's not something, even if some small action was taken within the last 30 days, it's not been effective enough. And I also would like to say that I strongly disagree with delaying action on this specific issue to develop a rodent activity map for the town. While I can appreciate that the map can provide helpful insight, it should not come at the expense of addressing a known acute problem within the town. And I question the validity of that data also. I mean, for example, I know a resident on Charles Street who observed a rat in their yard, but they never reported that activity to the town because many residents are unlikely to think of even contacting town hall for such an issue. So if the map is going to be a useful tool, I would suggest that it needs to have, or maybe ClickFix needs to have rodent activity as a reportable category to encourage broader and more accurate data collection. Just a few other things, and then I will let you get on with it. But, you know, I also would like to address the town's dumpster program, and I know that it's on the agenda tonight, but why it was publicly posted on the website if the town did not have the authority to enforce the program. I'm just questioning, you know, why is it being presented as an active initiative? I know, you know, if there have been any steps, and I think that there have, but if steps have been taken in the last month to give that program real authority or to address the issues behind 274 Main Street, it would be great if we could get an update on that tonight. And if not, it would be great to understand why. Lastly, I'd really like to understand how this board is addressing public nuisance complaints, specifically the ones filed by my neighbors and myself over the past year. But according to the Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 122, you guys would know better than I would, the Board of Health is required to examine into all nuisances, sources of filth, and causes of sickness within the town. I mean, it feels like a clear directive, and I'm just left wondering whether this board is choosing not to categorize these complaints as public nuisances, or if it's just not taking them seriously or not fulfilling these particular responsibilities. I really would like to urge the board to develop a clear and actionable process for addressing public nuisance complaints with accountability measures in place for businesses and property owners. Immediate enforcement of existing regulations, such as securing the dumpsters, is going to be an important step toward resolving this problem and preventing further public health risks. I recognize that rodent mitigation requires a proactive approach, but if we're not holding these businesses accountable for basic standards, which, 5 years, 1 year, today that dumpster still remains open, then we're not preventing food waste from becoming a food source for rodents, and any mitigation that you attempt is going to fall short. So I really do hope that this board can offer some concrete actions this evening.
Okay, thank you, Jen.
Thanks. Steve.
Appreciate your comments. And I think we'll hear more about rodents, dumpsters, and Pineville over the next hour or two. There is work being done, but let me ask, Mary C, do you want to make any comments, or should we move on? I'm not sure. Not hearing from Mary C. I think I will.
I had to figure it out. Hi, my name's Mary Cooper, and
Yes.
I'm a tenant at 1051 Main Street, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
going to be the next topic. So,
Okay,
you know,
sorry. Yep.
I'm joining in tonight so that I can be, up to date as to what you guys are going to decide, and I can know how things are going to work moving forward here in my house.
Okay, well, that's a perfect segue to our next agenda item, which is 1051 Main Street, and I'll turn that over to Aday to shepherd that discussion.
Real quickly, Rick and
Okay.
Dave, before we go into that, I just wanted to bring something up to the board. So a friend of mine is a mutual friend of Charlie Barbaros, and then reached out to me the other day and asked me to give him a call with in regards to the inspection report that we all saw in our emails. So I raise it to the board because I don't feel like it's something I need to step out of the room for or preclude myself from discussions in it. However, I don't want to make that decision for the board. If board members so wanted to, felt more comfortable with me recusing myself from the discussion, I'm happy to do that as well too. But I don't know Charlie Barbo. I just know where there was a mutual friend of ours. I thought it'd be worthy just to bring it up to you all.
Could I say something quick too?
Sure.
I've also been at an event with Charlie. I've maybe talked to him for 5 or 10 minutes just to put it out in the open. I don't even know if Charlie remembers me talking to him, but I just want to tell everybody that I've talked to him before too.
And
Okay.
Rick, Mr. Barbo did some work for me on one of my on my sofa. And also it happens I do have a close personal friendship with his niece.
Seems like everybody knows Charlie.
We're losing the quorum real fast here.
Yeah, right.
Well,
So
I
just-
think I think that it's hard to make this decision sort of spot on in the middle of the meeting. Yet we have to, given the situation, I think we have to make a vote. I guess it's always safer to recuse yourself if there's any question or concern in terms of meeting the state requirements around conflicts of interest. And I guess that would in doing so, that would be either if there's a wide range here. If you had a 5-minute conversation, I wouldn't think that would be enough to influence unless you feel it would be. On the other hand, if the individual has done work for you and you've had more of a relationship, it may be of an issue. So what I what I would suggest, unless Aday has some other thoughts on this, would be to ask individually right now, ask Sal, Kevin, and Carrie, again, if you feel that the relationship that you have with Mr. Barbaro is salient and significant enough that you would feel more comfortable being recused. If all three recuse, we can always elevate Sophie to a full member for a quorum and have the discussion and make a vote on it. So Kevin, we can certainly start with you.
Yeah, as I said, I'm fine moving forward. I'm about as impartial of a person as you're going to come across. So I've had about a 10-minute conversation over the phone in regard to this specific issue. We're not acquaintances whatsoever. So
Okay, so you're fine with that. Sal, what do you?
I feel the same. I mean, it was just, talk about the weather, talk about, inconsequential things. So 5-10 minutes I'm very impartial.
Okay. And Carrie?
Yeah, I like Kevin, I consider myself pretty impartial. I have never socialized with Mr. Barbo. And my friendship with his niece is kind of independent of that, but I just wanted to be transparent.
Okay, very good. I think in terms of taking a lesson from this, because this is actually the first time this has even come up in the 5 years I've been on the board. And often our pre-board information doesn't come out until late the day before. So there's very little time to, have this discussion and make a decision and so forth. We'll have to, Aday and I will think a little bit about this and maybe discuss with town council if there are ways that we can inform people maybe sooner around particular issues that where there could be conflicts of interest, so that those decisions can be made, prior to the board meeting. But I think we're all set for now. So I'm going to turn it back over to Aday for the discussion.
Right. Thanks, Dr. Lopez. On December 3rd, we responded to a complaint at 1051 Main Street. We conducted a comprehensive inspection and found multiple violations that needed to be corrected. The violations include, but are not limited to, missing smoke alarms, windows not capable of being locked or staying up when open. In this instance, there's no window at all. It's just plywood and the air conditioning system. In some of the rooms, there are broken window panes. There's some cracks on the walls, and the foundation area is not weathertight. And we also found some burrows on the property. As you all know, Mr. Barbo, who is the owner of the property, is here tonight. From what I understand, he's currently working on bringing the house back into compliance. I believe he has replaced the smoke detectors, and he has secured the windows that are not capable of being locked.
I did have one
However,
day. Can I say one thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was looking at the variance application, and at the bottom of the variance application, it says that that this has to be in a week before. And it was only 2 days before that he signed this. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to take his, if we're doing something special for Charlie, I don't know. But
No, that's for internal purposes only. So
Okay.
we try to get people to turn it in earlier so
Okay.
we can plan better.
Okay, I just pointing that out.
Yes,
If that's fine.
yes, it is. So pretty much, Mr. Barbo is requesting an extension of compliance time. And I would, pass it over to Mr. Barbo to state his name again and tell the board the circumstances surrounding his request and how much additional time he's going to need to get this, violations taken care of.
Thanks for that. I'm Charles Barbo. I live at 1055 Main Street in Reading, and we're talking about the property next door at 1051. And before we get started, I'd like to apologize to the board because this never should have came before you. The first I've seen of these violations, or heard of these, or got any record from Mary was your letter, registered letter that showed up at the house on Saturday. Immediately, I was called on Thursday by the fire chief. I went down and bought smoke detectors, and they were installed and running on Friday before I got this letter. Fully going to comply and fix everything that needs to be fixed without question. But every one of the windows in the house have been need to be repaired and are not available for parts and mechanisms that are broken and disarray. No handles on the windows. The gears are stripped from using vice grips to open and close them. Most of the other stuff is pretty easily fixable. I talked to my contractor. He says you're looking at 3 to 4 months before he's got to order windows. And then once they come in, then he would make arrangements to come down and install them. And he's running on that for an average. It's Home One. He's another gentleman that's from Reading that does all my work, and I can get to something in writing if need be. But I certainly plan to bring everything back the way it needs to be to comply. The burrows that were found under the house are from wildlife being fed outside. We've got families of skunks, family of raccoons, a fisher cat, a couple of groundhogs. I myself have trapped 3 large-sized rats that have got into my property. And multiple squirrels. 3 times I've had them in my attic and had to have them extracted. There was a bird feeder on Mary's property, and this is what they're also feeding off of, other than some stuff that's been left outside to feed the animals, which I've asked Mary a couple of times now to stop feeding the wildlife. But that's what the burrows are from. The foam that's underneath the foundation, Mary felt that the animals were getting in, so she put mothballs around the foundation and then immediately closed up the foundation with foam spray, along with several places in the house with foam spray. And evidently must have locked something in underneath her house. Then it caused a fly issue and an odor. I called the exterminator. They said they would not open up walls and foundations and so forth to try to extract anything, and that after a short period of time, the flies would go away. So that wasn't an option of trying to find the odor. But everything that is on the list, if she had come to me with a list and it gave it to me, I mean, this could have been totally avoided. I don't know if there's any other questions that you guys might have. Like I said, I don't know if any of you have tried to call a plumber or contractor or anything of that nature. There, nobody can come out till after the first of the year. They're all booked solid, and they can't do the work until roughly 3 to 4 months is the average I got. I called 2 other contractors that I don't know, that don't do work for me. And if at all possible, I would like to use Home One to do all my work. He's the person I trust, and he does a lot of work in this area. And I think that other than that, that's pretty much it. But I've been in there every day since I've got the letter Saturday. And taking the time for my own business and family to do as much as I possibly can to get these straightened out. All the windows have been secured and are latched closed, and the broken window has been replaced. The fire detectors are been replaced and working. I actually went up to the fire chief and showed him the ones I bought that didn't comply, that he said were in stock. And it didn't look like they complied to me. And he said, yeah, those are no good. You need to get these other ones. And I'm like, well, they don't have them. And he says, oh, I was there yesterday. They got tons of them. So he went on his phone online and he goes, oh yeah, I goes, they don't. He goes, but so I ordered them and they were going to be here the following day, which would be Friday. And he said, just do me a favor, get them in as soon as possible. And as soon as they came in on Amazon on Friday night, I went down, put them in, hooked them up, and they're working. So those have been replaced. So the issues of the windows now, if we do replace them, which I called the Anderson window and their and parts department and old window department, and they do not make the mechanisms for the windows that are all stripped and the handles broken off. So the windows will have to be totally replaced with new windows, which is the dilemma for most of the delay. The tiles on the bathroom floor and so forth also needs a tile person to come in to do those. Have not heard from, he does tiling also. He's a general contractor, so he's got his, several people on a crew that do all this that he contracts out. And but two other tile people I called have not even called me back yet. So it's extremely difficult in that aspect, trying to get anything done in any short period of time. Although the holes in the tile floor, I will go in and fill and seal all that off. And I think that pretty much covers everything on the list. And again, I apologize to the board for taking this, valuable time is mine and yours, something that didn't need to, even come before you, I believe. And I've been, with Mary for a long time, or she's been with me for a very long time, for a very substantial discount. And as and I just hope they, the board takes that into consideration. Not that that has anything in realm to do with the repairs that are going to be done, but I have always done my best to do the best by her. And I think that I don't, if you guys have any other questions or and so forth, I was and that's it.
I guess I just had the one question about like the smoke detectors.
Yeah,
Were the smoke detectors gone? I read because she was smoking in the house.
I have
Is
no
that why-
idea. I don't know where they
Is that why
went.
they were gone? Yeah,
They're
I
not
was
there.
like just wondering who took them down.
Yeah, the smoke detectors were gone. The handles on the windows are missing and they're gone. And I did have to have a variance to have tenants in there, and Mary's been there for 22 years. And this is the first, problem that we've had. I didn't know they were missing. The fire chief went there for whatever reason, or I would assume that Mary called the Board of Health to come in and whoever, and he was one of them that came, noticed the wires hanging. All three smoke detectors are out and gone, and they're didn't take any time at all to replace and rewire, but they were hardwired, so they were still working. I assume. At least I had no notice that they weren't. I had no notice that they were missing, and so forth. And I don't really think there's much on the rest of it. The air conditioner that's in the window with the board on it is the tenants. It's not the landlord's. It was not supplied by the landlord or put in by the landlord. The outside of the house we talked about already. The cracks in the walls and around the windows and everything all have sprayed in foam filled in around them that evidently Mary felt that was the best way to do it without asking me for permission to, or checking of maybe or Googling, you know, how to seal up around the moldings, which would have been just caulking. So the,
Thank you, Mr. Barbo. Do any of the board members have comments, questions? Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions, I guess comments. So the first question I would have is coming off of the report itself, a day. And I know I spoke to you the other day, but I forgot to ask you, is that standard procedure to give 1 day fixes? Is that like, can you just, because I work with contractors a lot as well too, and I know it's not a feasible thing to be able to do in a lot of those regards. So could you walk me through that?
Yes, so we go by the time frame on the code. Anything that has to do with smoke detectors, that's a 24-hour violation. It needs to be, repaired within 24 hours. Anything that has to do with, rodents, rats being able to gain access into somebody's dwelling is a 24-hour violation that needs to be taken care of right away. So some of those violations state 1 day and some of them state 30 days. So it just depends on what the code says.
Okay, so we're just basically going off the code.
Correct.
And the reason I raised the question is I know in general this board and your department certainly has looked to make people comply rather than to fine them into it. Work with us, not have us force you to do so through fines. And it struck me as odd because those things weren't going to get fixed in a day, couldn't get fixed in a day, and then that's going to make it put that person into a finable offense, which I think would kind of raised all the alert on this one, anyways. And so, I understand that this, it seems like Mary and yourself, Charles, have had a long history together. It sounds like you have kind of the report in front of you to start working at, and so I think my question would be, you're saying 2 or 3 months for some of these things to be fixed. That sounds like more like that's a permanent fix, right? Is there like a handyman that can come out and temporarily set these things up in the interim while you're waiting on contractors to actually do the permanent work? Is that something possible?
That's what's being done now, and
Okay.
myself and my property manager is doing the handyman stuff.
Okay.
And securing everything that needs to be, like the windows are now been secured. The next thing I got to do is work on the tiles in the bathroom, and I think that's pretty much it. And everything is that we possibly can do, shy of taking out the windows, making new openings and putting the new windows in. It's beyond our realm. It needs to be done by a contractor.
Sure. But that's in the works as well too.
Yes, that is. I actually called him today in case and I said, I'm going to need a time frame tonight because I'm sure that's going to be the next question. And what are we looking at, and when could you get in to do it? He was like, it goes, just tell him 3 to 4 months. He says, I got to get in, measure the windows, put a special order in because they're all very small. So
Right.
they're not standard stock replacement windows, and that they would, he says that's once the windows come in and we order them, then it would be, anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks for me to schedule to put them in. He does not schedule until the products are all in, for the fact that it's, he has to keep moving from job to job. But it is in the works. And I don't see any problem in continuing and doing it.
Okay. That's all I have.
Dave, do you have a recommendation?
My recommendation would be to grant a 2-week extension
2 weeks?
to Mr. Babo. As long as the violations are, I have to go through each one, but like the ones that are 1-day violations, as long as those are taken care of.
There's 18
And-
violations, and I think 3 of them are 30 days and the rest are 1.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
And
So
um,
would, so I guess I have a question. So I guess with Charlie's explanation, could it be 2 weeks for the temporary repairs that he has to do and then schedule out the permanent fixes?
absolutely. So if he's going to change all the windows, right? I mean, we understand that's going to take a while. Exactly. He's going to need more than 2 weeks. But if he's going to put some kind of lock on it, you know, or temporary handle for it to be at least functional within 2 weeks, then that sounds reasonable to me.
they can't be made functional. They can only be locked closed. The windows, I had 2 or 3 conversations with Anderson. The parts are no longer available. The mechanism are in such a disarray that they can't be operated. So they are already affixed closed. I am in the process of putting a ceiling fan in the bathroom because now we don't have a window in the bathroom that opens. So that will cover the code for the bathroom, and which my contractor said we have to do if the window doesn't open, which is not a problem. That'll probably be done tomorrow or the day after. And I'm already, you could already come in and do another inspection and see that everything that needs to be done immediately is taken care of. The outside of the building, we're going to reclapboard and everything. Again, may not be able to be done till the better part of the weather. And when the contractor comes, but it is the plywood that's on the outside and the foam again was not done by me. It was done by the tenant, and that when he comes, that can be addressed, and so forth. And Mary's typing. I'm looking at her types now. The windows are 22 years old. The windows in my house are over 50 years old, and I don't have one that needs to be replaced. All right, and they're all Anderson windows also, and so forth. So I mean like I said, I'm probably ready for, if you wanted to come down and inspect it, 90% of what can be done. I'm just getting ready to head into the bathroom to work on the floor. Literally can be a couple of holes in the tile that there is a main underneath the bathroom floor that has a sub door that's got caulking around it in the tile to get to it. That there's a hole in that because she's had a couple of frozen pipes in the bathroom in the past years, a couple of years now and before, that we would put a space heater in to thaw the pipes. And that's what the hole in the floor was for. That can be closed up. Should it be there? No, I don't think so either. But the tiling, the cracked tiles on the floor would be, the whole floor probably has to be retiled.
Okay, Mr. Barber, hold on. So Ade, you're saying that the fire and monoxide detectors have been replaced, and that was sort of 1 day, and
Right.
that the standard would be 30 days for everything else. That's what? And
Everything else that doesn't have to do with rodent entry into the dwelling unit. So like the holes, he can close those holes, in the bathroom, on the bathroom floor.
yeah,
He doesn't need 4 months for that. So
And there's never been any rodents in the house.
right. We can't 3 to 4 months. That's a long time in my mind. And I think, for the windows, we might go longer than, we might go to 3 months, you know. But I think for everything else, it ought to be reasonable to have some fixes in place, you know, certainly before 3 months. And if the law, if we're already granting 30 days, that would be January 3rd. That's 30 days after following the inspection. You know, maybe what would be reasonable would be to expect the fixes to be completed, except for the windows, which may take longer, you know, and by February 1st or by February 13th, which is when our February board meeting is, and perhaps have a report back at that point to see where things are. Ade, what do you think of that?
Well, again, you know, like things like the holes on the floor can be done. He doesn't need, you know, 60 days to get
Right.
that taken care of. You know, if a window doesn't have a handle, he can screw a handle on the window temporarily, or
No,
put some form of, you know, temporary, whatever he
Yes.
needs to do. If not, from what I think the only thing that warrants a 4-month extension will be the window replacement. Nothing else. And maybe the foundation, if he's gonna, you know, try to do the foundation over, maybe. But like, you know, holes in the ceiling, holes on
there
the
are no, the ceiling holes are fixed. They're done,
Okay,
which were caps for recessed lighting that covers that were broken and missing. Again, I don't know how they could get broken in the ceiling, but they did, and and the rings were gone. Those are done already.
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but from my understanding, the only thing that
Yeah.
warrants a 4-month extension will be the window replacement.
Window replacement and the foundation, the outside boarding.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think that's all, I think that's the only thing that's not really done yet. Like I said, the 4 windows in the front do open. Two of them, the ropes are broken on the weights inside to hold the window up when you open it. I can give her a piece of wood if she wants to put in the window for the meantime, if she wants to open them. And there's several of them are missing screens or broken screens and so forth too.
So why don't we, given that he has 30 days, that's January 3rd, why don't we grant an extension to February 1st to pretty much have everything done except the windows, and possibly I think what we need to see by February 1st is a good faith effort to address the vast majority of the issues that were raised. And we understand window replacement can take time. And certainly if there's a major foundational issue, that could take time. But what I would like to see is a good faith effort by February 1st to address virtually all the other issues. And so I would make a motion, and we can either vote it up or down, or to grant an extension to February 1st for all the issues except for the window replacements. And I'm not sure where the foundation, and maybe the foundational issues if they require a major intervention. And then we can report back at the February 13th board meeting to see if any further extensions are warranted. So again, my motion would be February 1st for all the items, with the exception of the windows, and and possibly the foundation. So that would be all the issues that were raised in the report. And that we bring this back to the board February 13th to see if any further action is going to be necessary.
I have a
Joan,
question.
yes,
I think Ade just said that 18 of the violations were one-day violations.
There are 18 violations. There's, I think, 3 of them are 30, maybe 4 of them. I think 3 are 30 days. The rest are all 1 day from the date of
No.
notice.
So my question is, why would we grant him 2 months on the one-day violations?
I thought Ade was saying he would give him 2 weeks
2 weeks.
for non-permanent fixes, but they had to be fixed in some fashion. That some acceptable fashion, right? Was that
And it
what you said
sounds
today?
like most of them have
Correct.
already been fixed.
Yeah,
Okay.
he said 90% of them are already fixed, that's what Charlie said
Right.
himself, so.
And one way or another, and I with and I can see Mary typing while I'm talking, that the rodent problem or the animal
Yes.
problem,
Yeah.
I don't know what we do about that. That needs to be, I've got, you know, pictures and so forth of families of raccoons at her back door and in the yard. She used to put food out in the parking lot and under my storage unit, because they were living under that. And that's the reason that there was burrowing under the house. Again, that's so that I think
I would like to move on from this discussion. We've spent a half hour talking about this. I did not hear a second to my motion. Does anyone else want to make a motion for a shorter period of time, a longer period of time, other than February 1st? You know,
Rich, I would second your motion because he has 90%. He supposedly has 90% done already. I would second your motion.
Right, thank you. Any further discussion, Carrie? Before we vote?
Yeah, sorry, before we vote, what's the schedule for reinspection to ascertain if the fixes have been made, you know, pursuant to our request? Pursuant to the inspection report?
So typically for the one-day violations, you know, he already took care of most of those.
And we verified that? I'm just, it's a little hard for me to kind of keep track of where we are on all.
Oh,
of
we
these.
have 3 departments
Right.
enforcing the issues. We have enforcement from the building department, we have enforcement from the fire department, and then we have enforcement from the health department. And we're all in communication with each other. The fire department verified that, you know, that has been taken care of, so we can go by, you know, what they're telling us.
Okay,
That's
like I said, it's a little, I read
Right,
the
so-
report, it's very
Yeah.
clear, but it's a
So
little,
Carrie,
trying to understand the progress is where I'm getting tangled up. That was helpful. Thank you, Ade.
Yeah, I agree with you, Carrie. So like after 2 weeks, everything should be fixed to acceptable conditions. So are we checking on that, I guess, is amendment to the motion, well, hopefully.
Well, do we want to amend the motion to state that there should be there should be an inspection then done, you know, pick a date, you know, possibly,
Right before our next meeting?
right, well, maybe January, in the first week in January. And then again, February 1st, if that's.
Yeah.
You know, and then we will have the meeting February 13th and we can assess whether adequate progress has been made.
And I mean, we don't have to wait till that time. He said he's gonna put a ventilation mechanism in the bathroom. Once he
Right,
gets done with that, he can call us, we'll take a look. He's
Yeah.
going to close the holes on the floor. Once he gets done, he can call us. So we don't have to wait till February to do a re-inspection. We can
Yeah,
verify
that's
the
fine.
repairs like in real time.
right,
Okay, yeah, I second it. Obviously, again, second your motion, Richard.
okay. I'm gonna
Remind me what
kicker.
the motion is again, sorry.
The motion,
Yeah,
the motion again is that all the repairs will have been completed no later than February 1st, with the exception of the replacement of the windows. And if a major foundational change has to be, or intervention has to be done, that may take longer. But other than those two items, everything else will have been completed by February 1st. As the day say, they can check ongoing before then. I think ultimately we will need an inspection no later than February 1st to visually ensure that everything has been done. And then we would bring this back to the board on February 13th to see if, things were completed. So it's everything but the windows. Okay, go ahead, Carrie. You have balloons.
Sorry. The
Yeah.
balloons I have no control over. I don't
Yeah.
know why that happens, but I given that the bulk of the violations cited were one-day violations, February 1st feels like a long time off,
A long time.
is my concern. And given that we have indications from a day that progress, and from the property owner that progress is being made on addressing all of them, I wouldn't want to slow momentum. So I don't know if and a day, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you had originally said maybe a 2-week window. And that, seems to me like that would be fair. I don't want us to be seeming lenient on numerous one-day violations. The one-day violations in the code are not, they're one day because they're serious. And I don't want us to be inadvertently giving leniency on an area of the code that is treated more seriously. So maybe a friendly amendment to adjust the time frame from February 1st to I don't know what the 2-week period is.
so I agree, Gary. I was under the impression, that's what I was seconding, that 2 weeks is the time limit to get all the serious ones.
So that would be
Follow
like
January
January
1st.
6th. January 6th.
Right, before our next meeting.
I mean, there is a mitigating factor of this is in the middle of the holiday season and New Year's, and in terms of getting contractors and people in, it's a little tougher. But I'd be comfortable amending it to January 6th to have everything done, but those two other larger items.
And I would also advise that you put a time limit on those other two items, the foundation and the windows. You don't want to leave it open-ended.
Do you have a recommendation for that? You probably do.
So, I mean, it's hard to say, we start playing a lot of he said, she said games, with contractors. I'm not saying that's going on here, but I can only go off of what Charlie has said to his contractor that he uses, telling 3 to 4 months. My guess is it's probably could be done sooner than that if need be. It really comes down to the ordering. That's the biggest problem with windows. It's not the contractor's time to put it in. It's can the contractor get them. And I've driven by this particular house all the time, back and forth to school with the kids, and they are not sitting there somewhere in a warehouse. They're going to be made. It's just they don't make these sizes. So that always adds time to it. How much time that is, unless you call up Harvey Windows tonight and get a quote from them, I have no clue what that kind of window takes. But I just think we should have at least some time frame on it. So if he's saying 3 to 4 months, well, why not go with 3?
Maybe we just say the next meeting that Charlie can come with it's within 3 weeks. Charlie can come with the time frame to us.
And ask for another variance.
Right, because guessing
That's a better idea, Sal.
is going to do no good for us right now. Charlie just come back with us with the timeframe.
Yep.
For both the
Okay.
foundation and the windows.
Right,
Correct.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then you should just make it all the same. Again, because of the holiday, I'd push it out past the 6th into the following week. And then maybe we can have all of that wrapped up as well as the estimates for the timeline on the foundation and windows as well.
Then we'll know if
Uh,
everything, all the other items are tied up too at that point, because it'll be past the 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Is that our meeting week though? Is that what you're worried about, Rick?
January meeting is January 9th.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, so I don't want to
Agreed.
push this into February, given the sense.
no, we don't want to push it past that.
Right,
No, it has to be before that. yeah.
so,
So the 6th is fine. Worst case scenario is he has to come back before us on the 9th to extend the variance.
Right.
right,
Perfect.
okay,
I'd put
Let's do
everything for the 6th then, because then he can just request at the 9th that, hey, I need a variance on the windows, I need a variance on the foundation. Here's the timeline.
okay.
Makes sense.
So is that a motion, Kevin?
I think it was a friendly amendment to go from February 1st by Kerry to
Yeah.
January 6th
January 6th
for all
Okay.
items.
for all items, and report back to the board on January 9th if they're not all completed.
Yep, so you just need to accept that as a friendly motion,
Okay,
because since you made the motion.
Right. Do you
okay.
accept the friendly amendment?
I accept the amendment to my motion, and Sal, you seconded it, and
I did,
you're
yeah.
fine with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's take a roll call vote. Sal,
Yes,
Carrie,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes,
Joan,
Yes.
and yes, Rick. Okay, so
so just before we walk away from this, I just want to make, just say something in regards to what's going on. I know there's a lot of chatter back and forth about the conditions. The health department's role here is to bring the home into compliance. We do not deal with aesthetics. That's between tenant and landlord. So, Charlie and Mary, I suggest, you kind of get your heads together and come up with that component of it. Our side is really just compliance. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
well said.
Thanks, Kevin.
yeah, thanks, you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barbo. Thank you, Mary. And we're going to move on to the next item, which is an update on the regulations for human habitation. So, Aday, Amelia.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Lopez. So,
And real quick, sorry to cut you off a day. Mary and Charlie, you're more than welcome to stay for our entire meeting, but you are not obligated to do so if you want to log off. Whatever you'd like to
Thank
do.
you.
You're welcome.
And sorry, before we continue, I had no way of knowing this, but I have to jump off at 8. I have a client emergency that I have to tend to. I'm non-voting, so I don't think I'm gonna mess anything up, but I
Okay,
apologize.
All right,
I
thanks,
appreciate
Sophie.
it.
So
Thank
sorry,
you.
folks.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I will
No
see you
problem.
soon. Thanks. Bye.
all right. So at the last meeting, the board discussed updates to the human habitation regulation, which is section 10. Just to give you guys a quick recap, we added a section about pest elimination. We also added a section regarding refuse, collection and storage, and also maintenance of areas in a sanitary and safe condition. And of course, we updated the penalties and fees. So, this was discussed at the last meeting so that the board would have, time to further review the amendment and possibly take a vote to adopt the amendments tonight. So, yes, I'll pass it on to Dr. Lopez. If you guys are comfortable voting on the amendments tonight, that's fine. If you need more time for review, that's fine as well.
One question I had a day was, and I think this was answered at the last meeting, but the changes in the regulation that are, highlighted in yellow, are these taken from state regulations to be made specific to Reading? I mean, these weren't created de novo. These are, I don't know.
Yes, they're from the state regulation.
Okay, and so the state has these regulations as for possible adoption by local cities and towns, but
Correct.
otherwise don't apply currently. Is that correct? Are they sort of model regulations that cities and towns can adopt, and we're adopting it for Reading? Or
We're updating the human habitation code for Reading. The
right,
previous code pretty much has nothing in it,
right,
nothing to really enforce. So we're just updating it to make sure it's in alignment with the state regs. And when people go to the website, they don't go searching for Massachusetts state regulation and things like that. They actually go on the website and they look at they look for the town regulations and things like that.
correct.
So we thought it would be best for us to align our own Reading codes with the state code.
Right.
And Amelia, do you have anything you would like to chime in?
No, not at this time of day.
Thanks.
So
So
I think-
we're, so this, sorry, I'm sorry.
You go.
So we are essentially adopting the updated state sanitary code and incorporating it into our regulations. So it's explicitly clear to anyone who comes to, as you said, a day to check the Reading bylaws and regs that these are the rules, and these rules go back to the state sanitary code. If the state were to update the sanitary code in the future, and I know they're not gonna anytime soon because it just happened, but but if they were, we would still be bound by what we have adopted until such time as we adopted the new sanitary code.
Correct.
Thanks.
So this is word for word, the state regulations.
Pretty much.
Word for word, yeah. Okay. We won't change it at all. We're not discussing changing it. We're just taking it as is.
Correct.
Kevin, you had a comment?
No, I was just trying to get around to, I think, what you were trying to discuss in regards to that, Rick.
Let me, okay, then let me ask a day, just a slight twist on this, to make sure I'm clear, is if this is current state regulation, even though it doesn't appear in our current Reading regulation, are we still required to follow this regardless of whether we formally adopt it or not? We should be following this today at this moment, not. And so the purpose of incorporating it into the Reading regulation is really to make it clearer to our residents who might go to our website. And is that
Yes, that's one of the main reasons. The other reason is the prior regulation was in conflict with the updated state regs.
okay? Yeah,
So
But I guess also, right, so the state regulations really can't be enforced by the Reading town inspector unless we adopt it into the Reading. Is that true?
no, we can
Still
actually,
enforce state.
but yes, so the state regulation is vast. It's like almost, I don't know, like almost 80 pages or 90 pages. So this is just the human habitation section of the state regulation. and we have a human habitation regulation specific to town of Reading that is in conflict with the state regulation. So what we
Okay.
did was to update our regulation that's in conflict with the state regs, the newly updated state regs, to align both regulations
Gotcha.
for consistency purposes.
So can you walk through in conflict what that exactly means? Does that mean that we can't, is that, have we been bound to go by what we have on the books and not the state, or?
So, you know, somebody can say that the state is telling us to do this, but you are telling us to do this, you know?
Okay,
Right.
So we
so it's
don't
really,
want that.
we're really just talking clarity here. More than anything.
Yes.
Same thing we deal with in commerce, like federals will come in and state will come in, completely different rule books.
Hmm.
And it's just a conflict.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's smart.
And I think Amelia has something to say.
Yeah, Amelia.
Hopefully this kind of clarifies it a little better. So our old regulation goes off of the old housing code, and in April of either last year or the year before, sorry, 2 years ago, they amended it and changed the entire housing code. So what we had as a town is no longer in guidelines with the state sanitary code that we can always enforce. So for the housing inspection that we just discussed, that was based off of the state sanitary housing code. We want to amend this regulation so that it meets the new housing code, but also highlights specific aspects of that code, being pests, refuge, and collection and storage of any debris on private properties. So that way, if we do run into an instance that a property is harboring trash and it's causing a pest nuisance, we have the ability to state our specific regulation, and we don't have to state the state regulation. It still corresponds with the state guidelines of the sanitary code. It's just we would be enforcing our town regulation that correlates with that state sanitary code. And I hope that kind of clarified that a little bit better.
That's perfect. Thank you.
So I would make a motion to adopt the proposed revisions to the Reading human habitation codes for section 10.
Second,
Roll call, Sal,
Yes.
Carrie,
yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes,
and Rick, yes. So those regulations are adopted.
Okay, just before we move on real quickly, just to get back to public comment that Jen was referring to earlier. Is this something nowadays that makes it a lot easier now to go and make the compliance with the dumpster issue that's going on?
Yes, possibly, but the dumpster regulation, which we are going to propose to you tonight, would better address that
Okay.
specific regulation than this
How
one.
about that? Fine, yep.
Okay.
Moving on.
Okay. Aday, talk about the RFP.
Right. All right, so if you recall at the last meeting, I stated that the select board approved the reallocation of the remaining ARPA funds in the amount of $21,359.91 to go towards rodent mitigation efforts. Apparently, all ARPA funds need to be encumbered by December 31st. In other words, we have to get a binding contract by December 31st. If we don't, the funds will be returned to the US Treasury. So that's something we don't want to do. All right. So in the hopes of securing a contract before December 31st, we sent out a request for quotes. And we did that yesterday we sent it to 5 companies for rodent control services to portions of the town. You know, at this point, we only have $21,300. Rather than lose the $21,300, we want to secure something and then maybe later on try to get additional funding, but we don't want to lose this $21,300. So we pretty much sent out a quote, a request for quote for that amount, So let's see. So the areas, 1 second. So based on this request for quotes, right? There will be rodent control services, to portions of the town, and these areas include sidewalks, public areas, and public spaces on and around Main Street, starting from Park Ave. So Main Street all the way down to Washington Street, and then Washington all the way down to Prescott Street, Prescott all the way down to Sunnyside Ave. And then if we go back to Washington, Washington to Minot Street, and then to Warren Ave. And then on this other section of the town is going to be Western Road through Longfellow Road, and then Parkview Road, and then Auburn Street. Let's see. All right. So we are hopeful that we will execute a contract before December 31st deadline. And I've been in talks with the town manager, and I made a new proposal that would pretty much allow DPW to contract with their own pest control company that will cater specific to DPW's construction schedule. DPW knows their construction schedules. They know when National Grid is coming to open up the roads. They know when construction is going on the roads. They know when drain laying activities is going to occur. So there's no reason why they cannot have a pest control company that works directly with them and with their schedule to proactively prevent the spread of rodents due to construction. So this proposal was well received by the town manager, and I believe he's going to act on it. So we'll see what happens, but in the meantime, our focus is to get this $21,300 encumbered, and I'm hopeful that we will get a contract by December 31st. Any questions?
Nope.
I have a couple questions. I just want to, or clarifications. One is, there's a fixed amount, which is the ARPA funds of 21,300. But I didn't, unless I missed it, I didn't see a time frame. In other words, this doesn't go on for 10 years. This the 21,000 will be used up. So is this over 12 months or 24 months, or how are you thinking about it?
As needed. If we need additional funding, my hope is to go to town meeting, April town meeting, to secure some funding if possible. But in the meantime, we cannot let the US Treasury lay their hands on this 21,300. It shouldn't happen.
Well, they could use it for the national debt, but I think, we could probably use it as well. But so in other words, would this work? Are you proposing that basically we pay as they go, and it could be we run through the 21,000 in 3 months because, you know, they're dealing with these areas regularly, and so it could run
Correct.
out quickly.
So given that we have less construction going on at this time of the year,
Yeah,
and then the weather is cold, you know, I don't expect them to run through this 21,000 within 2 months.
okay,
So, by the time it starts getting warmer, we would be before the town meeting, trying to
Okay.
get some additional funding.
okay. And the other question I had was, there wasn't any specific mention of that issue we dealt with a year or two ago, which was the use of poisons versus rodent contraception. So how would that be addressed here in this contract? Are they, do we have control over what kind of poisons they use?
So, it is in the request for quotes. Under this request, rodent control is the use of properly registered, safe, humane, and environmentally friendly pesticides, and/or the use of approved devices on an on-call and as-needed basis to provide acceptable levels of rodent population suppression in affected areas covered by this request for quotes. So it is addressed in this RFQ.
So a contractor would know when they're signing on that safe, humane, and environmentally friendly pesticides does not include.
Absolutely. So I also require a summary of the company's understanding of the requested services
Okay,
and their specific approach to addressing our needs. So, you know, we can always clarify things during that, you know, phase of the RFQ.
right. I would just, you know, I would just keep that in mind as you go through these, you know, responses to this, is that we don't want to end up with, you know, the same controversy we had around Washington Park. since
Absolutely.
we already moved in that direction.
Absolutely.
in contraception. And the last, this is more of a comment, that we didn't include the area around Pineville because that is specifically around a dumpster issue that we are addressing, and I think Amelia and or Dave will comment during the monthly update as to what we've done so far. But I just wanted to make that comment. And then lastly, as I understand it, and what's stated in the RFP is that this addresses rodent control in those areas of Reading that were outlined that are public areas, that, you know, on private properties and around dumpsters or private properties, those owners are responsible for that management, but this is public spaces.
Correct.
Okay,
They can go on private properties and, you know, bait their properties or
but we can cite them.
wouldn't.
But we
Correct.
can inspect them, we can cite them and act and have them act. So there's
Yes.
really 3 pieces to this overall program, just to be clear. There's the response to this RFP, which we would get a contractor and we would be able to address the public areas in the areas provided. There's DPW doing its share of rodent control when it plans construction, which usually causes the rodents to be exposed. And then there is the sort of the private properties, which can be restaurants or could be other private properties. And when those, when rodent problems appear in those private properties, we as a health department and a board can cite them and have them address their rodent problem. So it's a kind of multi-dimensional approach.
Correct. And in the meantime, we'll take care of, public areas, embankments, public spaces, sidewalks and things like that.
So this is really, if are there any other comments or questions? Otherwise, Ade is going to take this and run with it in terms of getting a contract in the next couple of weeks. And I should mention that there is in fact a list of approved contractors for this kind of work. So it's not the total universe of contractors out there, but I don't know, was that list approved by the state? I think
Yes, it's approved by the state.
Right. And so there's like a dozen companies that the state approves. And so it's going to a limited number of pre-approved contractors who are reputable and so forth.
Okay.
Okay, Joan.
I have a question referring back to when Jen spoke with us about adding rodent sightings to the SeeClick fix.
Hmm.
Is there anything do you feel like that would be helpful?
They're already doing that. I'm not sure
So
why.
rodent sightings is already added to SeeClick fix?
Absolutely. I just got,
Okay.
Jen just put one in right before the meeting. So I'm not sure
Okay.
why.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Okay.
How quickly will we be able to move on regulations after citing? Well, I guess that actually goes back to the regulations now that we've updated those. Because we really do need to move on this Pineville situation or Domino's situation.
I mean, we are moving and they are complying, but
I think we're
I
going to hear
believe
more
that-
about that
Cool.
at the monthly update.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to the dumpster regulations.
All right. So let's see. At the last meeting, the board discussed updating dumpster regulation section 4, as well as food code regulation section 9. Amelia has played a major role in updating these regulations. I'm very thankful for that. And I'll have her go ahead and give us a brief summary of both updates. And for tonight, this is for informational and discussion purposes only. No votes will be taken tonight regarding these two regulation updates. We anticipate a board vote at a subsequent meeting. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Amelia.
Thank you, Ade. So just to be conscious of our time here too, I'm going to do a brief summary of this regulation. So we've revised our dumpster regulation to ensure proper compliance with the general laws of the Commonwealth, specifically section 31A and 31B of chapter 111, the human habitation standards for the state, which is 105 CMR 410, which we've talked about a little bit here tonight, and the Town of Reading general bylaw, Article 1, Section 8.11, which is just general provisions. We are hoping to broaden this regulation to encompass not only commercial buildings, but also to include residential and industrial entities as well. So if we start at section 4.1, when it comes to the pre-installation requirements, we want to specifically specify the following. So we would like a plan to be submitted to the health department regarding the location of this dumpster prior to a dumpster being placed on a property. And they would also need to obtain a permit, which is approval from us that that dumpster can be placed in that location. We would also like a written agreement that clearly defines who is responsible for the maintenance and collection of that dumpster. We also want to ensure that any commercial building that occupies multiple businesses have access to a dumpster for their disposal, and also that any owner of a dwelling containing 2 or more units, any roaming house, homeless shelter, etc., is responsible for the final collection and disposal of that refuge. Our fees correlate with our permitting fees for annual dumpsters and temporary dumpsters in the town, which is $50 for our annual dumpster and $40 for a temporary dumpster at this moment. In section 4.3, our dumpster requirements are as follows. So we would like all dumpsters to be enclosed or screened so that they're not visible from any public ways. And we will also be approving these enclosures prior to their installation. Of course, with temporary dumpsters, they do not need to be screened as they are only placed there for a short amount of time. Also, any instance that comes up regarding an enclosure issue will need to go through a variance request and be approved by the board for that variance. We also emphasize here as well that dumpsters cannot be picked up between the hours of that they are not to be emptied between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. And also that dumpsters need to be of a sufficient size to eliminate any overflow. And if we feel that, and that also dumpster lids and enclosures are closed when the dumpster is not in use, along with routine weekly pickups will be required for all dumpsters as well. In the event that a dumpster persists as a nuisance, we would like that the dumpster hauler is responsible for deodorizing, washing, and sanitizing any dumpster that we deem necessary, along with haulers being responsible for ensuring that all contents of the dumpster is picked up and they prevent spillage when emptying these dumpsters. We also ask that dumpsters, again, just to emphasize this, are locked by the end of all business days to prevent any illegal dumping issues that may occur, and also that temporary dumpsters shall comply with these provisions as well regarding sanitation and picking up of those dumpsters. So when it comes to the authority of these dumpsters, we're asking that if any dumpster is deemed a nuisance or has repeated violations, the health department can order dumpsters to be enclosed if they're not already enclosed, that their locations are changed, the dumpster size is changed, and additional pickups are added if that's needed. We want to also order a dumpster to be added to any premises that may not have one, but we feel could utilize one. And this determination will be based off of complaints, inspections, or nuisances that are causing environmental health risks to the town or the general public. The health department and its agents reserve the right for random inspections to be conducted to ensure compliance of these regulations. And we'd also like that corrective actions are ordered, and if not followed, we will take whatever legal action is necessary to correct these outstanding violations. And of course, any person has the right in writing to appeal 7 days of any suspension, revocations, or violations to the health department. When it comes to penalties, we are following our updated fine fees, which is $50 for our first offense, $100 for our second offense, and $150 for our third offense. And when it comes to our variance process, again, this is in regards to anything that is issued to an establishment that they feel was not just, and also if a dumpster, needs size revocations or anything of that nature, they can also apply for a variance in writing to the board to be granted. And that is our amended dumpster regulation.
Thanks, Amelia. So, as I stated earlier, this is just for discussion purposes. We anticipate a board vote at a subsequent meeting, not tonight. So the board can take time to review, these amendments and go from there at the next meeting.
So similar to our discussion earlier around the human habitation, are these regulations, proposed regulations, are these created de novo by us, or are these an adoption from somewhere else?
It's a combination of the complaints that we've been receiving and how to internally address those complaints, and also how other towns, address their dumpster violations as well.
Okay.
So I had one question about the fines. So it's 50, 100, 150, and after 150, is it every day afterwards, or how does that work?
So here we're saying that it's going to be 150 for additional offenses. So once we hit that third 150, it'll be 150 every day after. So each day that the offense continues shall constitute separate offenses, but we'll go off of 150 as that is our highest fine that we can issue.
So to be every day after that?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
If we get the chance to go there every day, some people, there's this impression that, dumpster management requires us to go to visit all the dumpsters in the town of Reading on a daily basis. That's not gonna happen.
Right, so it won't be automatic. It'll be whenever Amelia goes again, it'll be another. So I guess what I'm asking is if Amelia goes January 1st and it was the third offense, gives $150 fine and doesn't go back until December, the maximum they'll get is $300 for the year.
So if it does come down to me having to go out every day, I will
Right.
be going out every day.
Okay,
If that's
yeah.
what it has to take, I'm hoping we don't have to get to that point because I want to work with our establishments and our commercial buildings and our residents. But if it does have to come down to me going out every day, then when
Right.
that comes, we can evaluate that.
I don't want you to have to do it either.
Yeah, me
It's
neither.
total waste of time. So thank you.
If there are no further questions, we can move on to the food code updates.
I just have
nobody's
just one
found
real
it.
quick in regards to 4.1.4. This is by no ways intending to make a person with a 2 or 3 family or greater dwelling get a dumpster. It just puts them as the responsible party for the disposal of the refuse, correct?
Correct. And, if we deem, it mandatory for,
Sure,
the
if it
owner
becomes a
to-
problem, sure.
Correct. If we're getting complaints and, then
Understood.
we can
Okay.
make that determination.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't compelling every 2 and 3 family or more to do so automatically. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there are no further questions, we can go on to the food code updates.
Okay, so we've updated our food regulation to be a bit more specific and in correlation with the FDA 2013 Food Code and 105 CMR 590 State Sanitary Code Chapter 10 Minimum Standards for Food Establishments. So we start here with our definitions section. This just defines any abbreviated verbiage that is in our regulation, which I will not take up our time to read through. I've recategorized our food establishments to meet the FDA risk retail standards for good practice. So what that encompasses is food establishments are placed on a risk category 1 through 4, and it's off of their food process. So if you're a convenience store and you're only selling prepackaged foods, you would be categorized as a risk category 1. If you are a sit-down full-service restaurant handling raw meat products, maybe you have a cooking, cooling, reheating, reserving process, that would put you into a risk category 3. And then our risk category 4s are nursing homes, specifically anyone with a HACCP plan, so that could be sushi establishments, anyone doing sous videing would put you into a risk category 4. And the risk categories are really to ensure proper food safety compliance, because that ups our inspections that we conduct on these restaurants. So based on your risk is how many times you would be inspected throughout the year. We also have reserved the right to recategorize at any time a food establishment that we feel is a risk to the public. Once we feel that that establishment has demonstrated proper active managerial control and food safety practices, we will reevaluate that new risk level that we've given, and we can always reinstate their original risk. But again, that has to be shown through active and repeated improvement over the time of routine inspections. We've added a reinspection fee. I know that's kind of scary when you look at it, because it just is, but we're hoping that introducing a reinspection fee kind of kicks restaurants into gear to not wanting to be reinspected. So a reinspection fee would occur after the first reinspection. So we would conduct a routine inspection, a reinspection, and then if we felt that that restaurant needed another reinspection, it would follow our fine schedule that we have. So $50, $100, and $150. Of course, if we feel that the restaurant is a risk to the public, we have reserved the authority to close or mandate a hearing with that restaurant. And we have reserved the right to have them obtain a food consultant so that they can properly train their employees and ensure that they are meeting food safety compliance. So we're kind of hoping with the introduction of these reinspection fees, active managerial control will be ramped up, employees will be trained properly in food safety, and hopefully we won't have to do reinspections. So that's kind of new, and we're introducing that. When it comes to applications of new food establishments, we would like restaurants to hire a food consultant or a registered sanitarian to help them with their plan review process. Plan review processes can be tedious, and they can be confusing, and they can be very long if you're not in the restaurant industry, if you don't have that food safety knowledge. And it's tedious for us to go through a plan review and give back feedback and kind of, get restaurants to a place that is ready to start construction and, start that pre-operational process. We've also added a separate fee of $150 for plan reviews just because of how tedious those can be. But we're hoping with introducing a food consultant or a registered sanitarian to that process, it's a smooth process for everyone, for the health department and for these new restaurant owners. When it comes to permits and certifications, we really want to see those posted. Some restaurants do a great job of keeping those updated and posting them every year, and ensuring that they're in compliance with their current food permit or their dumpster permit. So we just added that section to remind restaurants that we do look for those. We do ask questions about food manager certificates, allergen certificates, choke safe if it's applicable, and we just want them to be in a conspicuous place for everyone, consumers and regulatory authorities to see as well. We added a section with person in charge. So in the 2013 food code, where these two bullets were taken from, a person in charge is anyone who is a certified food protection manager or has been appointed by a certified food protection manager and is of 18 years and older. So when I go into restaurants and I ask, hi, is there a manager I can speak with? Everyone's a little bit up in arms because maybe the certified food protection manager isn't here, and people haven't been told that they're designated as the person in charge. So we just want to ensure that during all hours of operation, we have either a certified food protection manager or an appointed person over the age of 18 that has been trained by a certified food protection manager to step in the event that they need to be present for. Employee health forms is a big one. Last week we had some foodborne outbreaks that I had to investigate on Wednesday. So we really want to ensure that employees know not to come into work when they're sick, specifically if they're experiencing diarrhea, vomiting, jaundice, which is yellowing of the skin, sore throat with a fever, any lesions on your hands, wrist, or any exposed body part. And this way, restaurants are having that conversation with their employees and they know to call in and say, hey, I'm not feeling good today. I can't come into work. And God forbid, in the event that someone does test positive for any type of foodborne illness, we can catch that before an outbreak occurs. So we really want to have employee health forms on site. We want employees to sign them, acknowledge them, know that they're being enforced. And I would like to see those when I go out to do inspections, that those are on file at the restaurants. We had a section on time as a public health control. So we have some pizza establishments that hold their pizza at room temperature, which is completely fine. We just ask that it is done within 4 hours maximum and that they're logging when they're placing that pizza at room temperature and when they've discarded that pizza after 4 hours. So we just added a little section in here so our restaurants know that we're looking for a written procedure on that. They have logs available, and if that's something that someone wants to introduce to their establishment, they're applying for a variance to come forward, talk to us a little bit, let us know what they're doing, how they're doing it, how they're ensuring that 4-hour window in those logs, just so we're all in the know and we understand that they understand how to do time as a public health correctly. Labeling is a big one. So a lot of restaurants have like little cookies or brownies at the front of their POS stations, which is fine. But we're just asking that they're labeling those ingredients that is mandated by the state. Common names, ingredients, specifically those of allergens, if those have to be kept refrigerated or not, if they're perishable, when they expire, if they're manufactured out of the establishment, who's manufacturing them, where they were made, any nutritional labels. We really want to see that, and that specifically will also be for our residential kitchens as well. We want to ensure that they're properly labeling their food. So we added an example of what packaged food labeling should look like, just so that way restaurants can use it as an example for them and how to make their labeling of their baked goods or whatever it is that they want to sell to the public. Molluscan shell stock tags, we want to emphasize that they should be kept in establishments for 90 calendar days and in chronological order. That is from the food code, not that specific section, but that is also enforced through the 2013 food code. And it's just a way for us to understand where these shell stocks are coming from. If, God forbid, an outbreak happens with these shell stocks, the restaurants can track it back to see if a batch they've obtained has been affected, and they can pull it off their shelves. We also ask that no one is mixing their molluscan shell stock. So if a batch does become infected, they're not like, oh my goodness, I don't know what out of these batches, what is infected and what's not. So we added that little verbiage there. Frozen dessert testing, we also added. This is just ensuring bacteriological testing for dairy-based frozen desserts. That's anything that is from a soft serve dispensing machine or an ice cream barrel. And this can be done on at least one dairy-based frozen product, and it has to be done monthly by a certified laboratory, usually GNL or Morel or any other laboratory. And we would also like to see those laboratory reports, because if something comes back with a high coliform count, we want that soft serve machine or that ice cream barrel freezer shut down. We want it sanitized. We want it retested by the lab. We obviously want to see a lower coliform account, and then we can give everyone the okay that they can continue to serve that soft serve ice cream or continue to make that ice cream. When it comes to food trucks, we emphasize a little bit of both of what our retail restaurants emphasize, and then going off of 590, the retail food codes from the state. So this is just ensuring that a certified food protection manager, or again, appointed official from a food protection manager, is at the food truck at all times. We want to make sure that employees are trained properly in food safety and that they understand allergy awareness. We want to know what their menus are, what their beverage items are being served. We also want to see copies of their food establishment permit if they have a commissary kitchen, their hawkler and peddler's license, and their most recent inspection report in the truck as well, along with their certified food protection manager, allergen certificate, and that's all encompassed in our application process as well. We also ask that food employees, maintain a high level of personal cleanliness, such as hand washing, food handling, just like our retail stores. They're using utensils or single service gloves. We want the food trucks to be properly cleaned and sanitized. There's warewashing when there is needed to be warewashing, and they have sanitizer in the food truck that is food grade approved. Also, this is a Reading regulation by the fire department that any truck operating a propane tank over 20 pounds has to be inspected and approved by the fire department. And that's a separate entity that the fire department will give them a permit for. And this is kind of what we're asking when obtaining a permit. And again, we're kind of asking for these to be in the food truck as well when they're serving food to the public in the town of Reading. Ice cream trucks are following about the same when it comes to what we're asking them to comply with. The only difference here is we would like a copy of their vehicle registration and their auto insurance. And I believe they have to check in with the Reading Police Department and submit any required forms that the police department would need prior to driving around in the town of Reading. Residential kitchens, we don't have a lot of residential kitchens, but we wanted to encompass residential kitchens into this food regulation in case they do come up in the future. So this pertains to 105 CMR 500, Good Manufacturing Practices for Food. And it's basically kind of talking about food preparation and protection and general requirements that we ask our retail restaurants to do, just kind of worded a little bit differently for our residential kitchens. And for our residential kitchens, we're asking that they produce low-risk foods. So that could be cakes, cookies, breads, or confectionaries. And a retail kitchen license is going to be needed for anyone that wants to serve products to the general public, meaning that they want to attend a farmer's market, a flea market, anything of that nature where consumers are purchasing their products. That would consider yourself as a residential kitchen. Those also...
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
In the general requirements, the last bullet point, I think that should read pets, not pests.
Yes.
But
yes.
we'll make that adjustment. This is just a draft copy. So
yes, absolutely. Good
sorry to
catch, Day.
interrupt.
No, perfect. Awesome. I'm glad you caught that. So yeah, so that is a big emphasis. We don't want cats or dogs in the kitchen when commercial food is being prepared. We're also asking them to have a food manager certificate and an allergen awareness certificate, so that way they're with the same knowledge of our retail food establishments. Residential kitchens are also to be inspected once a year by us, unless we deem it's necessary to inspect them more frequently. So we just wanted to add that in there. When it comes to grease traps, we're asking that establishments install or relocate an internal grease trap if we deem it necessary. So in any food establishment that's preparing or selling food that is producing a byproduct of grease shall have either an internal or external grease trap that is applicable with building and plumbing codes. And we're also asking that any food establishment with 150 seats or more installs an external grease trap with a capacity of 1,500 gallons. We're also asking that internal grease traps are cleaned out 4 times a year or as needed, and that as needed stance will be on approval by the Board of Health. So people can come and obtain a variance if they feel, hey, I'm not producing grease enough to clean out 4 times a year. Could I clean out my grease trap maybe once a year or twice a year? They would come before the board, present a variance, and you guys would vote on whether you deem that that's necessary, that their grease trap doesn't need to be cleaned out 4 times a year. We're also asking that grease trap haulers send us their service reports. I know a lot of restaurants don't have on file their service reports, and this kind of talks about what the condition of the grease trap is, how much grease was pumped out, and what they're seeing when they're inside that grease trap. So it's good knowledge for us to know that if, hey, this grease trap is super old, it's corroded, it's not really doing the job it's supposed to, you know, we can advise the food establishment that, you know, it might be time for them to get a new grease trap. So we did add that, and there's also a grease trap log that haulers are actually really good about filling out in the establishment. So we just want to have them keep up with that log. So when we go in to do an inspection, you know, we see that green log and we can say, okay, they were just here on 11/22. Awesome. We're also asking that owners and managers check their grease traps at least once a month. We know that the haulers are coming out and doing that initial check as well, but we just ask that owners stay on top of their grease traps, that if God forbid something does happen, you know, they're catching it before their hauler comes out. And you know, nothing dramatic happens, you know, in an instance like that. Also, we're asking that records be maintained by the owner on the premises for no less than 2 years. Again, in the instance that we have to refer to them, you know, they're easily accessible. When it comes to pest control, we have some restaurants that do it monthly. We have some restaurants that do it twice a month. We have some restaurants that don't do it at all. We're asking that pest control is performed as needed or as we feel is needed to the establishment. Pest control, you know, can be expensive, but it is to serve as a tool for preventive and active control of any activity in an establishment. And sometimes being proactive helps to mitigate a bigger issue from occurring. So we want our establishments to perform pest control, but we also understand that if it's not needed as often as monthly, you know, we're happy to work with that. Enforcements is just that, you know, we enforce all provisions of this regulation, and, you know, at any time these food establishments can be inspected for compliance. There's obviously criminal and non-criminal penalties that are involved with this, which hopefully we never have to go forward with. Restaurants are entitled to hearings, so if they receive an order to correct letter, you know, we mandate voluntary closure. You know, we're doing multiple re-inspections. If they feel like, hey, you know, I want to sit down and talk to you guys, they're more than welcome to do that. We just ask that they submit it in writing to the Board of Health within 7 days of an order or a re-inspection that has occurred. Variances are for our time as a public health control, reduced oxygen packaging, which I didn't really talk too much about, but that's okay. Our hazard analysis control plans, sous videing, and grease trap cleaning. So all of these would require a variance if restaurants wanted to change, implement, whatever it is, by the board, come before the board, explain themselves. There we go. And then servability. So that's our food code kind of summed up. And yeah.
Thank you very much, Amelia.
Thank you.
Great summary. I really enjoyed it. All right. So I would like to point out a few things. First of all, I would like to emphasize that, again, this is just a draft copy that we anticipate the board to vote on at a subsequent meeting. I also suspect that given the amount of food establishments we have in the town of Reading, this may require a public hearing. I will check with the town council regarding that, and I'll update the board. And I also want to note that we introduced a couple of fees, like the reinspection fee and the plan review fees. We are looking at restructuring the entire fee schedule for all permits. So, you know, we will propose the amendments to those fee schedules in subsequent meetings as well. And also, the last thing I would like to touch on is that we currently have a separate grease trap regulation, but we're trying to tie it in, you know, with this food code, so we don't have to have, like, you know, separate sections when we can just tie everything together. And also, the emphasis on grease trap is, you know, if there is any dysfunctional grease trap around, we will be able to, like, alert DPW to let them know that you know, there's a potential of having blockages around this area due to this grease trap that's dysfunctional. So yeah, so that's it.
Harry, you have a question, comment?
I do, thanks. And thank you, Aday. Thank you, Amelia. I know it's a lot of work. So a couple things. I want to clarify that this, similar to what we talked about with the human habitation section that we reviewed earlier, this is not new things that the Reading Public Health staff have invented and are applying to Reading. This is standard practice for inspection and requirements for people who are in the food business. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, I know it, you know, it might seem to some folks like, oh my gosh, they're adding all these new things, but you're not adding new things. You're simply incorporating them instead of, so you know, the draft, the document you gave us in comparison was, you know, the town incorporates by reference 590 CMR. This lays it all out explicitly so that nobody has to go to the state reg to find it, right?
Correct. And it clarifies things. So for example, we are asking, you know, for like a food consultant or a sanitarian to help with food plan reviews. What we've experienced is that, you know, sometimes we have like administrative assistants, you know, turning in like 110-page food plan review to us. You know, so we want to make sure that, you know, whoever is turning it in the application, they have, you know, food service knowledge and things like that, because that makes it smoother. It makes the process go easier. But if we have, you know, somebody without the knowledge turning those applications in, then we're going back and forth, asking questions, and, you know, it just makes it, you know, yeah.
Right.
So,
and to clarify, so food plan review is only for new establishments. So when you say, I want to come in and open a restaurant in Reading, part of what you have to do is go through this food plan review. You present all of the blueprints, the schematics, and you're showing here's how we're going to operate. But that's not for every establishment. It's not an annual requirement that there be food plan review, right?
Correct. It's for brand new establishments. It's for people that are trying to renovate an existing establishment, and it's also for addition or removal of food service equipment.
Right. So like, I think it was Professor's Market came to us within the last year or so, because they wanted to add sous vide, and that was a modified plan review because it was,
absolutely,
you know, it's just to add that one functionality. So
correct.
Okay. So, and then because this is the state code, this, you know, just kind of is explicitly making, I know we talk about this a lot, it's sort of being consistent community to community, you know, people who operate in multiple communities. I know this has come up when I've talked with folks of how nice it would be if the same things were enforced in different communities. And this is part of making that possible, you know, just make it all more transparent. Okay.
Absolutely. And then we're also exploring the possibility of food trucks. So for example, we're in a shared collaborative, and we believe that if a food truck gets inspected in Andover, who is part of our collaborative, and we all have the same standards, we should be able to accept the inspection report within the town of Reading. So we're also working to standardize inspections and things like that. But yeah, I'll keep the board updated regarding those things.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, I mean, this is really, it's important work, it's valuable work, but it's not new. We are not creating new regulations to impose on our restaurant folks or food folks. And then, you know, I'll just say it, Jay, my last thing, you set me up. The last thing, that regional permit, you know, that regional food truck approach, I know there are many communities talking about that. And I think that if inspectors in all the communities had completed tier 1 through tier 3 of the required food inspector training, that I think that probably would go a long way towards making the regional, you know, the acceptance of a regional permit for a mobile food truck really make it more acceptable, right? You know, because again, it's you know, not just about are the regs the same, but are they being enforced the same? And as we work on having all inspectors trained in the same way to the same standards, that just makes it more reasonable. So
Absolutely.
great work, you guys.
think if I could add something, 2 things. We added specific things that we, you know, the food code, like you said, Carrie, already talks about that we're noticing in our restaurants. So labeling, shelf stock tags, employee health forms, people in charge, you know, those are things that are coming up redundant in a lot of our restaurants. So we kind of want to have a food code regulation that is a way that they can look at this and understand, okay, this is from the food code that is over 300 pages, but are, you know,
Right.
that's a lot to read. So
Yes.
we're pulling out, you know, specifics of that food code. So it's in a way presented to them that is understandable, accessible, and it's easy for them to know, okay, this is what this is what the town is really emphasizing.
Got it.
And then on the tier 1, 2, and 3, I just want to mention that I am doing that. I'm on tier 3. And Elsa has been training me and it's been going really well. And like you said, I think it's a great way for all inspectors to be standardized and on the same page. So like Aday was saying, if they do roll out that mobile food truck, you know, we're all in the know. We're all looking for the same things. We all understand the same things. So
Yes.
I just wanted to add those 2 things in
That's
there.
excellent, fantastic. And thank you, Aday, for being a director who emphasizes making sure that your inspectors have the time and make the time to go through that training. It's really important. And I'm proud that we are one of those communities that is in the beginnings of that. So yay.
So I have just one question, which is somehow I vaguely remember that the FDA updated its 2013 food code in 2022. And so why wouldn't, as we update our food code under section 9.1 here, why wouldn't we say that we're adopting the 2022?
So that's a great question, Dr. Lopez. So Aday and I did want to adopt the 2022 food code. I reached out to a colleague of mine in the field, and I inquired about, just because he knows people that work for the food specific part of the state, if we could adopt the 2022 food code as a local health department. At this time, local health departments are not allowed to adopt the new food code because we are specifically, or the state specifically has 105 CMR 590, which enforces the FDA 2013 food code. So until the state revises their policy to move forward with the FDA 2022 food code, then local boards of health are allowed to adopt that food code as well. So Aday and I were looking to meet that FDA, you know, where that the FDA is
Right.
at the moment, but the state is not there yet. So we just have to wait until the state gets there, then we can get there as well.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Any other questions or comments for Amelia?
No question, just a lot of work that went into it by the looks of it,
Lot of
Amelia.
work.
Really
Yeah,
good
right.
job.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was
Actually,
tedious.
Dave, can I ask you, you mentioned about a hearing potentially for this. Is that required for the dumpster regulation as well or not?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
So,
I
Aday,
will check with town council and get back to the board.
okay,
Yeah, that would be helpful.
yeah, because I'm just curious why you'd feel that if we haven't really changed much in here. We're just moving it around. I know we've changed a few things in here, added a few things, but it sounds like we just moved things into more neat package. Is that correct? That's what Kerry's assessment was?
I mean, like if you compare the old section 9 to the new section 9, I
Mm.
believe we have 4 or 5 additional pages. So I feel like that would trigger a hearing. Again, let's see. Yeah, we only have, that's all we have for the food code
That's it.
from the old one.
That's it?
Correct.
That's it.
That's all
But
we
Yeah,
have.
we
but
just
we were still,
incorporate
we were
direct-
still, we were still doing everything that Amelia just detailed in one place. It's just, it was all scattered all about, right?
Pretty much.
Okay, got it.
So I
Okay,
guess the question for town council would be if the changes aren't substantive, if they're just organizational, then, does that warrant a hearing? And, as we've gone through the changes to the regs are not substantive. They are what has been being enforced. Or what, and what is the letter of the law?
Or
So,
there may be new fees enforced. They may feel,
right,
you know,
fee changes too.
Fees, yeah.
that's the only thing I could think of.
I'll check with town council and update the board. I mean, at this point, you're not voting on this regulation. It's just review and discussion.
Sure.
The vote would not occur until a subsequent meeting, and I have enough time to reach out to town council and figure out how to proceed.
Okay, Dave, when that time comes, I think it'd be very helpful for your department if you invite all those that this is going to fall under to that meeting. So in one fell swoop of that night, we can explain succinctly what's going on rather than you getting 30, 40, 50 phone calls scattered over a month, as opposed to when they send this out to them. You may save time.
Gary?
Sorry, just, and I think I'm maybe committing a cardinal error and going backwards. But what so since we last met, staff have been working hard to update the dumpster regs and the food code regs, correct?
Correct.
And that was the purpose of when we met last month, we said we definitely want to look at, updating dumpster regs and so on. I mean, so that's been our intent, and that's been part of why there's been how the time has been spent, so that we can adequately address issues that come up for the inspectors. Yes?
Yes, correct.
Thanks.
Okay, Dave, we want to move on to the monthly report?
All right, so we're going to use the same format as we did the last time. I believe everybody enjoyed it. So we'll let Amelia start with her monthly report, and then I'll have Olivia next, and then I'll just summarize things after that.
I apologize, I don't have a PowerPoint this time, but so since we last met, restaurant inspections have slowed down a little bit, just kind of because I hit the ground running a little bit too hard in October. How
Do you want to share the monthly report, or do you
not want me to share the Word document? This is what I have for my monthly report.
I see the food code.
We're saying the food code.
Yeah.
Oh, are you guys not seeing? Oh, my apologies. Hold on. Let me stop. I don't know why this opened. Let me stop sharing and then reshare my screen. I apologize.
That
No worries.
happened.
Okay, can you see the Word document now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the last month of November, because we're talking about November, renewals, all renewals have been sent in October. We've gotten about 69 responses in total since renewals have been sent. So we're waiting for about 40 more restaurants, specifically speaking restaurants, to submit their renewals. When it comes to inspections, again, just because I kind of hit the ground running in October, last month I only did 27 inspections and only had to do 1 re-inspection. And with that re-inspection, it was a complete 180. It was like I was walking into a brand new restaurant. So it was very, applause to that establishment. They did a great job turning that around. When it comes to orders issued and complaints, we only had 1, which was, that was, great. And ice rinks, which I did back in October, was 1. I know we talked about Domino's, so I kind of want to talk a little bit about Domino's. So last week, December 4th, I went out to do a routine inspection with Domino's. And after our last board meeting, Ade and I sat down and we talked about how can we get Domino's into compliance and how can we get them into compliance now? We sent out an order to correct letter to Domino's and the property owner enforcing the dumpster regulation in the FDA 2013 food code and our current dumpster regulation that involves debris enclosure and compliance. We got a call from the Domino's owner. He pled his case. He stated that he's working really hard to get that dumpster into compliance. He's battling what he states is illegal dumping and everything of that nature. So we gave Domino's a week to, get that dumpster into compliance. Didn't get into compliance. We kept receiving see, click, fix complaints. Ade kept receiving emails. So I prompted a routine inspection, which was due, but also a way to talk to the restaurant owner and kind of understand what's going on with this dumpster. So I want to share their inspection report because their inspection report this is the inspection report I conducted, talks about that dumpster. So just to quickly go over this, they do have pest control and that dumpster is monitored with their pest control. Pest control noted that they see little to no activity around the dumpster. However, it being a food dumpster, the potential of them not consuming that bait is because they're consuming the food. So if there's food and rodenticide, they're going to choose the food. So, I talked to the restaurant owner about that. He very well understood that. My pictures here, I had him clean up the whole area of the dumpster.
We don't see the
There.
inspection report. Can you share?
Crappiola. Yes. Sorry. I thought it was there the whole time. Do we see it now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So this was the pest control. This is the Domino's owner. He actually was there that morning, so it was perfect timing. I had him go out and clean the whole dumpster. Every single side of that dumpster, that debris had to be removed. I literally, as you can tell by the pictures, stood there and watched him clean all these sides of that dumpster. We got that dumpster into compliance. He closed the lids. We reminded him to close the fence. We spoke about him getting a lock for the dumpster, and we would move forward with that. The next day comes, we received a complaint from 7:30 in the morning that the dumpster lid was open, the gates were closed. We quickly called Ade and I, the Domino's owner. He informed us, hey, I just purchased a lock. I'm going to the establishment now. I will close the dumpster lid and I will lock that dumpster fence. And up until today, that dumpster has been in compliance since December 4th. We understand today that the dumpster lid was open and there may have been a trash bag left outside of the dumpster. We know that the Domino's owner has expressed illegal dumping, and Ade and I brought that up with the property owner. And, if that continues to be something that Domino's is expressing, we will head into that avenue of combating an illegal dumping issue that could potentially be present. So that's a Domino's update that I wanted to give. And I believe that was my kind of what happened in a month along with these regulations as well.
Kevin, you have a comment?
Real quickly, yeah, thanks, Rick. Amelia, did they ever file any police reports?
So they haven't. And I told the Domino's owner moving forward, we would like written
We'd like them to build a
documentation.
case,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
file a report.
Yes, so
So-
we've asked the Domino's owner to keep us in the know if he comes in and there's illegal dumping that he, his staff didn't put. If the lock is broke off, we want pictures and, we want timestamps of when that is happening so we can escalate it to potentially the police department and, the owner can rope in some security cameras if that is what's going on over there.
Yeah, see, the only reason I bring it up is the police are really good if they have this on their radar as they're driving by in the course of their normal duties. It's just it's a quick glance, it's a quick notice. When our Reading Police Department knows that there's an issue going on somewhere, they're really good at being at the right spot at the right time. Put it that way. So just as a heads up, I would encourage them to absolutely file a report, even just based off of what they've done already. I wouldn't wait for it to happen again.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
and that's something we can bring
I
back.
would also suggest having, notifying the building owner to notify the other tenants that they are going to start reporting to the police illegal dumping, because this dumpster is way back from that building. I can't believe that people are just coming off the street and leaving stuff. It's probably from other tenants, and they should know that there may be police reports.
Absolutely. And when we spoke with the property owner, he informed us that other businesses weren't utilizing that dumpster. There are barrels out there with locks on them that supposedly these establishments are utilizing. But again, there's no surveillance really around that area, so we can't determine whether or not that's an accurate statement.
It has the property owner, have you discussed with them the putting in surveillance?
Absolutely. He has shown some willingness to actually do that.
Okay. I think that'd be really, really important moving forward, because he's going to put a lock on that gate, and up and over the fence goes the bag.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. I'd almost rather him leave the gate open than put it in the dumpster illegally than throw it on the outside of the dumpster where it can really easily get picked up. But that's neither here nor there.
Right. Any further questions? If not, we can move to nursing updates, please. You're mute.
Hi, everyone. All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. Okay. Okay. All right, so this is our monthly disease report. As you can see here, we've had 16 cases of COVID in the month of November. Cases are coming down from October, but we only had 17 in October, so that's not a crazy difference. We are seeing some GI-related diseases coming in. The past month, we had a case of Campylobacter and norovirus. With that being said, I just want to remind everyone, please wash your hands and wash any surfaces that have come into contact with raw meat and or poultry. We're starting to see a rise in influenza cases. We've had 7 in November, and we are already up to 4 this December. So it's definitely on the rise. We will continue to see an increase in these cases because through the Department of Public Health of Massachusetts, we know that Massachusetts flu cases tend to go from October all the way into May. Peak time is November through February, so we're definitely sitting in peak time right now. And that it brings me a nice segue into our flu clinics. If you know of any homebound individuals who have not gotten a flu shot yet, or if you know of anybody that hasn't gotten a flu shot at all, please direct them towards me. I would be happy to do a home visit for a flu shot. We are going to be hosting 2 more evening clinics within the next month for 65 up individuals to give the high dose vaccine. So if you know of anybody that needs that, please send them my way. And that brings us to the end of the disease report. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I am holding blood pressure clinics throughout the month. So if you know of anybody that would like a blood pressure check or screening, I do Pleasant Street Center the first Wednesday of the month, Cedar Glen on the second Thursday of the month, and Tannerville on the third Thursday of the month. And then I'm going to share once again to I apologize. All right, so we are going to be starting a diabetes donation program. This was prompted from the from a call from a resident actually that wanted to know of any places to drop off diabetic supplies that had come from a past family member. So we are going to be starting that now actually. And I'm just trying to share my screen to show you the document. However, it is not coming up.
Here it comes.
Can you all see this document? You cannot, no. It will be readily made available on the website as soon as possible. So that will be coming soon. I apologize. But we are going to be sending supplies to the American Diabetes Association as well as Insulin for Life USA, and we'll be sponsoring or partnering with them to send the diabetes supplies there. Aday wanted me to run through the CHIP program updates, so I'm also going to be discussing that tonight. So as many of you know, we have our community health improvement plan, also known as CHIP. We are slowly chipping away at that, and I will be giving a visual in the new year of all the things that we have been working on. But we are working with the senior center, recreational team, the schools, and the Reading Coalition, as well as many other institutions to further the CHIP agenda. I just wanted to bring your attention to some of our health priorities and tell you all how we have been working on this since I've started in September and how we've been doing that in the past years, or the past year. So as you can see in health priority section 1, that's preventative screenings, health screenings and treatment services. The senior center has been, these are just a few examples of how we've been furthering that. The senior center has been working to bring in a nurse practitioner to provide monthly foot care for our Reading residents. The services are welcome to any Reading residents. So if you know of anybody that needs a visit from a podiatry team, just give us a call at the senior center. The number is 781-942-6794. Another thing that we're working on is we're going to be partnering with a mammography van. We've brought in the Mamma van in the past, and we are hoping to continue to make this an annual or in fact a biannual, depending on the need in the future. It will be coming either April 29th or 30th. I haven't confirmed the date with them yet, but as soon as I have that information, I will let you know. I have a meeting with Vision 2020 coming up next week to bring a vision screening van to Reading, as well as a meeting with Beltone, New England, to bringing a hearing screening van. And that brings me to goal number 2, to support linkages of mental health and behavioral health services for those in need and support. We've been working, the Middlesex Essex Shared Services Collaboration has just hired a communication specialist, Chandani Paul, who will be working with the local municipalities to expand community outreach programming. I look forward to working with Chandani as well as the rest of the health department, I'm sure as well, to promote our health initiatives to the town. Along with the mental health and behavioral health services, I'm going to, as I've said before on past meetings, I'm going to the Narcan trainer training in January. Our coalition already brings a lot of Narcan information to the schools. However, I would like to make it a more regular teaching and education to any town residents that wish to have that information. Health priority number 2 talks about healthy environment and inclusive programming, specifically talking about the establishment of a community center. As many of you may know, we have been working with the recreation as well as the senior center to adapt the Reading Center for Active Living, also known as RECAL. There is a public forum this upcoming Tuesday, December 17th at the Pleasant Street Senior Center at 7 p.m. for any of those who would like to hear more about that initiative. It's a wonderful collaboration, and I'm really excited to see where that goes. Okay, I'm almost done. Goal number 2 is talking about increasing opportunities for community connections and support services for those in need of support. Those of you who don't know, there's a wonderful case manager over at the Pleasant Street Senior Center, Carrie Valley, and she has been working to identify homebound individuals throughout Reading for as long as she's been here. She's done a wonderful job. So if you know of any homebound individuals, it does not have to be seniors. Please let us know so that we can identify any needs that they might need that we have not met. Along that lines, expanding evening and weekend access to programming. We started doing evening flu clinics this past month, which actually was very well supported by the residents they were very happy that they were able to access treatment without compromising their workday. In 2025, I would like to bring our flu clinics to the Reading Community Days, as well as weekend and more evening events. All right. Another goal is to build resilience among youth and young adults to foster well-being and belonging. As I've mentioned in the past, we have the Reading Children's Cabinet that I have joined the team for. We have our update meeting in January, and I look forward to bringing that update to you all. And then lastly, we have our healthy eating and active living priority, which is priority number 3. Starting next month, I am going to be doing a monthly meetup to collaborate on healthy living for individuals who are looking to learn more about nutrition and the long-term benefits of healthy eating, as well as positive food mapping for individuals with pre and active diabetes. So keep an eye out on the public health site for future information on this. I'm very excited about that program. But this is what we have been working on for the 2024 year. And I look forward to presenting a more visual update for you all in the future. And the last thing I want to say is that there is a salmonella outbreak on fresh cucumbers or foods made with them, like salads, wraps, or sushi rolls. And it is from companies, I'm gonna butcher these names, I apologize, but Sunafed, Bolayan, Walmart, Supreme, and Yumi Sushi. Please just go ahead and check your cucumbers. And that's all I got. Oh, thank you, Aday. You brought up that is the diabetic supplies take back program. There are a list of the supplies that we accept. It is unused and unexpired diabetic supplies. And you just reach out to me and we'll coordinate a pickup, and then I will ship it off. And that's all I have.
Excellent.
Right?
Thank you very much. And of course,
job.
we have the budget for shipping those items. So that's great. Thank you very much.
Great work.
Great.
Although I'm sad, we've gone from carrots to cucumbers. so-
You know, I was thinking about that, and I had a colleague, and that's what she would eat for lunch. She was very health oriented, carrot sticks and celery sticks and cucumbers. So she must be distraught, I think.
I'm just gonna say it. Bacon's never killed anybody.
You got a point there, Kevin. You got a point. You got a point. Well, I'm glad. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I think I just sped through that. My 20-minute assumption went from 20 to 8.
No problems.
Yes, so I'd just like to mention that we're chipping away at the chip plan, and we're doing what we can within means. We just don't want the chip plan to be another document just sitting on the website and not doing anything about it. So I am very grateful to Liv. I really appreciate everything she's been doing, and we hope that at subsequent meetings we would have a better visual understanding of what's going on. So we hope that we'll be able to present that to you at probably the February meeting, something like that. but we'll keep the board updated.
Great.
Thanks, Liv. All right, and mine is going to be really brief because I had Pineville, but I believe Amelia said everything about Pineville, so I think we're good to go regarding Pineville. So, the nicotine-free generation amendment is effective January 1st. As of this date, the sale of nicotine products is prohibited to anyone born on or after January 1st, 2004. We mailed out a reminder letter. That's what is on the screen right now. And we also mailed out the signage. Every Reading establishment received a copy of the reminder letter and the signage that was mailed out December 3rd. And yesterday, Maureen hand delivered the signage to all Reading establishments. So the goal is for, and she did some educational, pretty much what to do with the signage and how to talk to their customers about the new amendments. So pretty much our goal is for each establishment to post the signage on the front door, one on the counter where the cash registers are, and then one behind the counter facing the customer. It is well received. We're not getting too many establishments that are angry about this. They know it is the law. So we're not getting any pushback whatsoever. And then we plan to send a second reminder out probably next week. Hopefully they would receive those before Christmas. Just one more thing to state is that Belchertown adopted this NFG regulation last night, and the city of Chelsea adopted it 2 days ago.
Oh.
This is a victory for the proponents of the NFG regulation. So thank you very much, and I wish everybody happy holidays. And,
Same to you.
I'll pass it back to hand it over to Dr. Lopez.
Great. I should also mention, I read something that a few weeks ago that a couple representatives on Beacon Hill have also put a legislative action on the agenda for nicotine-free generation statewide. That will be debated, I guess, next year. So it's moving in that direction. Any other, I don't have any other comments or any other comments, questions, thoughts before we adjourn. Not seeing any, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Have a second. Second, roll call, Sal.
Yeah.
Terry,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Joan,
Yes.
and Rick. So we are adjourned. Happy holidays, everybody. See you
Holidays,
next
everybody.
year.
Happy holidays.
Yes, happy
Bye-bye.
holidays. Be well.
Thank you.
Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays.
Bye-bye now.
Night.
Bye. Thank you.